gentleman from Maryland for yielding, and I want to congratulate Mr. Mfumi and the Black Caucus in general for many, many years being the conscience of the United States Congress. Year after year, they have given us the serious budgets, the humane budgets, and the American people owe them a debt of gratitude. And I'm very delighted, as a member of the Progressive Caucus, to be joining with them today to discuss a sensible alternative budget. Mr. Chairman, the truth is that the President of the United States has presented the American people with a good budget. But frankly, in my view, it is a budget which does not go far enough. Our nation is a great nation, and I believe that if the truth is laid out on the table, if we have the courage to look at our problems honestly and straightforwardly, as serious as these problems are, we in fact can solve them and once again restore the preeminence of the United States of America on the world scene. And to the President's credit, unlike his predecessors, he has the courage to put the chips out on the table and tell the American people really what's going on. And let's touch upon a little bit what's going on, and Mr. Mfumi has already raised some of those issues. Mr. Chairman, 20 years ago, the United States of America led the world in terms of the wages and benefits we provided our workers. We were number one. Today, after some Democratic rule, after 12 years of Reaganomics, our working people today are in 12th place in terms of the wages and benefits that we receive. The good news is that German companies like BMW are coming to America to build automobile plants. That's the good news. The bad news is that they're coming here now because we are becoming a source of cheap labor for Germany. Their manufacturing workers earn 25% more per hour than our workers earn. Mr. Chairman, as Mr. Mfumi has already suggested, we have 16 million workers in this country who are unemployed or underemployed. We have millions more who are earning a totally inadequate minimum wage. The Congressional Black Caucus, Progressive Caucus budget understands that we must invest in America, we must rebuild this country, and in the process create hundreds of thousands of decent paying jobs for American workers. We think it makes sense to rebuild our highways, our mass transportation systems, our sewer systems, all of the needs that have been neglected for decades. We think it's a smart investment because we improve our society and we put people to work at decent wages. Mr. Chairman, 2 million Americans are sleeping out on the street, and many millions more are living in wholly inadequate housing. 5 million American children go hungry every day, and the United States has by far the highest rate of childhood poverty in the industrialized world. 20% of our kids live in poverty. Mr. Chairman, the Congressional Black Caucus, Progressive Caucus budget says that in the United States of America, the children of our country must not go hungry. Now, that may seem to be a radical idea to some of our friends over there. Some of us think that it's not a radical idea. It's an American idea, that our children must not be without adequate health care. Half the kids do not get their basic immunization shots, and that all of our kids must have an adequate education to go into the 21st century. Radical? I don't think so. I think that's what this country is supposed to be about, and I'm very proud that our budget understands that the greatness of a nation, the moral strength of a nation, is judged by how well we treat our children, the children who are the weakest and the most vulnerable members of our society. And that is why I'm very proud that our budget, more than any other budget, provides adequate funding so that we effectively deal with the crises facing our children. Mr. Chairman, clearly the priorities in the 1980s, here it is. Housing, down 77%. You wonder why people are sleeping out on the street? Here it is. Health care. You wonder why kids don't get their immunization? Health care down 49%. Employment and training down 48%. Mass transit down 33%. Farmers Home Administration down 25%. Child nutrition down 19%. Education down 70%. Not everything is down, however. Military spending up 46%. And those are the kinds of priorities that our budget is trying to reverse. No one denies that our world is a dangerous place. Nobody is suggesting that we disarm America. But we are asking, for example, whether we have to spend $130 billion a year defending Western Europe and Japan, countries that are now wealthier than we are. Let them defend ourselves. We've got to take care of our kids, our people. Mr. Chairman, those of us who are supporting this budget are outraged by the waste of human life and human potential in this country. And that's what this budget is about. It's for the elderly, it's for the kids, it's for working people, and it's for the poor. Mr. Chairman, very briefly, let me just touch upon another issue, and it's an issue that I think we don't discuss very much in this House. The media doesn't deal about it too much, but it's an issue of concern to me. As you know, we Americans are great sports fans. We always want to know the score, who won and who lost the game. Well, let me briefly talk about the most important game being played in our nation. And it's not football, it's not the NCAA basketball, it's not baseball, but it's the game of who wins and who loses the economic struggle. Who wins and who loses the economic struggle. And let me make reference now to a recent study authored by Arthur Kennicle, senior economist at the Federal Reserve Bank, and R. Louise Woodburn, mathematical statistician for the IRS. What their results show is that the richest 1% of the population own 37% of the wealth of America, while the bottom 90% now owns 31% of the wealth. Richest 1% own more wealth than the 90% of the people who are in the bottom. And what has happened in the last dozen years is the gap between the rich and the poor has grown wider. Now their side, and we have to concede this point, you won. Congratulations. Your friends have become much wealthier, while many of the people that we represent, working people, poor people, senior citizens, they have lost. That's what the score is about. Mr. Chairman, let me conclude by mentioning another study by Professor Edward Wolf of New York University. I know some of our friends, they talk about raising taxes. What a terrible thing. But I think it's important when we talk about taxes to ask, who is going to pay? Who should pay taxes? Well, let me conclude by quoting a statement from Professor Edward Wolf of New York University, and he writes, quote, of the $2.6 trillion increase in family wealth between 1983 and 1989, 2.6 trillion bucks. We're talking about a lot of money. 55% accrued to the top half of 1% of the families. So all those gains of the Reagan years, that's where they went, to the richest 1/2 of 1%. Most importantly, the lower, middle, and bottom wealth classes collectively lost $256 billion of wealth. That's what happened. So I think, Mr. Chairman, let me conclude by congratulating the Congressional Black Caucus for their outstanding work. As a member of the Progressive Caucus, I'm delighted to join with them. Let's go together to change the priorities in this country and make sure that America works for all the people and not just the very wealthy. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time.